Welcome to another deep dive here with my Mind MashUps. And hey, if you like what you hear today, please do remember to like, share, subscribe, or follow us wherever you get your podcasts.
Definitely helps us out.
It really does.
Yeah.
So think about this. Every single night, as you drift off to sleep, you embark on this journey into your own mind, right?
Yeah.
A place that's super familiar, but also like deeply mysterious. Your dreams.
Yeah.
And you got to wonder, are these nightly stories just random sparks, neurons firing off?
Or maybe something more.
Exactly. Could dreams be actual, like, downloads of information, a way maybe your subconscious programs itself? Or is it like this hidden vault of knowledge just, waiting?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is. And on this deep dive, we're going to be exploring exactly that. We're pulling from, well, science, of course, but also dipping into ancient wisdom and even some, frankly, surprising historical accounts.
Yeah, trying to figure out what's really going on when we dream.
Could dreams be messages from somewhere else? Can you actually tap into their potential? And what's the latest research telling us about why dreams might be so important?
Okay, let's unpack this whole idea first.
Yeah.
That dreams might be more than just, random brain noise.
Right.
It's a question that's fascinated people for, well, forever, really. Neuroscience gives us a framework, sure, REM sleep, neural activity.
The mechanics of it.
Exactly. But there's this whole other layer, isn't there? So many cultures, different thinkers, they suggest dreams could be, I don't know, bridges to something bigger than just us.
Absolutely. And maybe the first place to look is Carl Jung, his idea of the collective unconscious.
Right, Jung. Fascinating stuff.
This idea that our dreams can actually tap into this shared pool of symbols, archetypes, things we all inherit somehow.
Yeah, the universal patterns, the hero, the shadow, anima, animus, all that.
He called dreams the guiding words of the soul. I love that.
It's a great phrase.
He saw them as giving us glimpses into these like ancestral stories, universal themes, serpents, mandalas, wise old figures popping up in dreams.
So the key takeaway from Jung is really this connection to a much bigger human story through our dreams.
Yeah, and he was careful to separate that from the personal unconscious stuff.
Exactly. The personal stuff is, your own repressed memories, your experiences.
Yeah.
But the collective, that's tapping into something way deeper, shared across time.
Didn't he study specific types of dreams for this?
He did. He called them big dreams. He studied them with the Ogoni people in East Africa, actually. These dreams felt like they had significance beyond just the individual, touching on maybe universal truths.
Wow. A shared human experience playing out while we sleep. And that idea, it's not just Jung, is it? Indigenous beliefs often see dreams as communication, too.
Oh, absolutely. For many indigenous cultures, dreams are seen as a direct line. Communication from ancestors, spirits, even the natural world itself.
Really, like actual message.
Yeah. Shamans in many traditions, Amazon, Siberia, they've historically used dreams for, well, all sorts of things. Diagnosing illness, predicting events, navigating spiritual journeys.
So for them, dreams are like a tangible connection, offering real guidance and healing.
That's a good way to put it. A tangible form of communication. And they weren't just passive about it either.
Right. You mentioned dream incubation.
Exactly. Dream incubation. It involves specific rituals, could be fasting, prayer, sleeping in sacred spots, all done with the intention of actively asking for guidance through a dream.
Like trying to get a specific answer.
Pretty much. Think ancient Egypt, they had actual dream temples.
No way.
Yeah. People would sleep there hoping for divine messages. There's that famous story about Pharaoh Thutmose IV. Dreamt near the Sphinx he should clear the sand away. He did, and supposedly it cemented his kingship. And it's not just ancient history. Amazonian shamans today still teach initiates to dream with open eyes, sort of blending waking awareness with dream visions to get healing knowledge.
That's incredible. Almost like actively tuning into the dream channel.
Yeah. And in some indigenous cultures, it goes even deeper. This idea of a collective soul, dreams impacting the whole community's healing.
How does that work?
Well, for groups like the Ojibwe and others in North America, dreams are really woven into the community fabric. Elders might interpret dreams in ceremonies, seeing them as messages from what they sometimes call the fifth dimension.
The fifth dimension.
A kind of spiritual plane where individual lives and the tribe's destiny connect. Even nightmares aren't just bad dreams. They could be warnings, maybe. Unresolved karma surfacing.
So dream work becomes this tool for community harmony, not just personal insight.
Exactly. Healing trauma, keeping balance with each other and with nature.
Wow. So, okay, we have Jung's collective unconscious, indigenous communication, really broadens things out. Then you have Eastern spiritual philosophies,
Mm-hmm.
dreams playing a role in, like, spiritual growth.
Yes, definitely. In traditions like Tibetan Buddhism and Hinduism, dreams are seen as real opportunities for spiritual advancement. They even developed practices specifically to use dream states for enlightenment.
Okay, so dreams aren't just happening to you. They're a tool you can actively use.
That's the core insight, yeah.
Tell us about Tibetan dream yoga. That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it's a pretty profound practice. The goal is basically to cultivate lucidity, become aware you're dreaming while you're dreaming.
Okay.
And by doing that, you start to recognize the dream state itself as illusory, like the Buddhist idea of Maya, that reality isn't as solid as we think.
Right, the illusion.
So by becoming aware in the dream, you work on dissolving ego attachments, aiming to perceive this clear light of pure consciousness.
Wow.
There was this yogi, Naropa, back in the 11th century,
Yeah.
a big figure. He taught that dream yoga could actually speed up the path to enlightenment. Well, the idea is that your dream body isn't limited like your physical one.
Yeah.
So you could potentially travel spiritual realms, purify karma. Some advanced practitioners even talk about getting teachings from deities or resolving past life stuff in dreams.
That's incredible. Using the dream world as a kind of spiritual fast lane. You mentioned karma earlier, too, in Hinduism and Buddhism.
That's right. In Hinduism, dreams are often linked to samskaras, these mental imprints from past actions. They can show up as symbols in your dreams.
Like echoes of past deeds?
Kind of. The ancient Upanishads talk about dreams as a state where the soul sort of reviews its karmic balance sheet.
Huh?
And similarly, in Tibetan Buddhism, unresolved karma might pop up as nightmares, sort of nudging you towards reflection and, sorting things out.
So mastering dream consciousness is like preparation for what happens after death, the bardo.
Exactly. It's seen as training for navigating that in-between state.
So, okay, across all these ancient traditions, there's this recurring theme. Dreams matter. They hold information. They connect you to something bigger. And it's interesting how modern science is maybe starting to find echoes of these ideas, isn't it?
It really is. We're seeing these modern syntheses trying to bridge the gap between ancient wisdom and neuroscience.
Like with lucid dreaming.
Yeah, exactly. Studies on lucid dreamers, people aware they're dreaming, often show they have enlarged prefrontal cortices.
And that's the part of the brain for.
Higher level thinking, self-awareness, what scientists call metacognition, thinking about your thinking.
Okay.
So some neuroscientists in Germany have actually suggested lucid dreaming could be a way to sort of train for higher consciousness by making you more aware of your own mental states.
Huh. Training your awareness in dreams.
And think about common dream themes, falling, flying, they appear everywhere globally. That hints at maybe some shared brain instructions, which, well, it sounds a bit like Jung's collective unconscious, doesn't it?
It kind of does. Makes you wonder about those famous historical dreams then. Were they just random for those people? Or something more?
It definitely makes you think. Take Abraham Lincoln. Apparently, just 10 days before he was assassinated,
Yeah.
he had this super vivid dream. He walks into the White House East Room, sees a coffin, soldiers, asks who died. And the answer is, the president, killed by an assassin.
No way. That's chilling.
He tried to brush it off, apparently, but it clearly disturbed him. And then, the night he was killed, he told his bodyguard about having recurring dreams for 3 nights straight. He even said goodbye instead of goodnight.
Wow. That gives you pause. And then there's someone totally different, like Nikola Tesla, using dreams for engineering.
Yeah. The story goes, he's walking in a park in Budapest, 1882, and bam, this flash of insight. He mentally sees the entire rotating magnetic
The
field.
basis for AC motors.
Exactly. He said later, in that moment, he just knew he'd solved it. And years later, he credited his ideas about wireless power to these nocturnal revelations, picturing the Earth itself as a giant conductor.
So these weren't just vague ideas, they were like detailed blueprints appearing in his sleep.
That's how he described it. These insights fueled his big experiments out in Colorado Springs. It almost fits that idea we started with dreams as a channel for information your waking mind doesn't easily access.
And what about Paul McCartney waking up with the tune for Yesterday? Just there, fully formed.
Another classic example, it's like these ideas were downloaded overnight.
It really makes you consider the potential of our minds in these altered states.
Yeah.
Processing information, maybe even receiving insights.
It definitely blurs the lines, doesn't it, between what's purely psychological and maybe something else, something connecting us to deeper creativity, wisdom. Or like some traditions say, maybe even messages.
Okay, so there's clearly a lot of potential there. But before we get into how you, the listener, might tap into this, we need to address something we hear all the time.
The I don't dream people.
Exactly. I don't think I dream. What's actually going on there?
That's a great point, and yeah, it's a super common misconception. The science is pretty clear. Everyone dreams. Every single night.
So it's not if you dream, it's if you remember them.
Precisely. And studies show only like 11% of people consistently remember their dreams. That difference in recall. It comes down to a really complex mix of how your brain encodes the dream and then how it retrieves it when you wake up.
So the dreams are happening, you just can't grab onto them when you wake up.
Well,
What's going on in the brain that makes recall easier or harder?
Well, brain scans, like fMRI studies, show that high dream recallers tend to have more activity in specific areas. One is the temporoparietal junction, the TPJ involved in mental imagery,
Okay.
and the other is the medial prefrontal cortex, or MPFC. That's more about self-awareness, tying memories together.
So more activity there means better recall.
It seems so. A recent study even found high recallers had denser white matter, like stronger connections in that MPFC region.
Interesting. And what about things that hurt recall? You mentioned stress.
Yeah, chronic stress can definitely impair encoding. It messes with the hippocampus, which is absolutely key for memory consolidation.
That makes sense. If you're stressed, your brain's probably busy elsewhere.
Right.
Harder to file away dream memories.
Exactly. And the different sleep stages matter too, right? REM versus other stages.
Absolutely. We usually think of REM sleep for vivid dreams.
Right, a rapid eye movement sleep.
But interestingly, waking up from NREM stage 2 seems to be more critical for actually remembering the dream later.
Really? Not REM?
Well, during REM, you get these specific brain waves, theta oscillations, that seem to help encode the memory. But in NREM 2, lower alpha wave activity seems to help retrieve it.
Mm-hmm.
And here's something else counterintuitive. Sleeping longer without waking up might actually reduce recall.
Get out. Why?
Because a huge chunk of dream memories, maybe like 68%, seem to get locked in during tiny micro-awakenings we have all night without realizing it.
Wow.
One study found people getting maybe 6.5 to 7 hours of slightly broken sleep recalled way more dreams than people sleeping a solid 8+ hours.
That's wild. So those little wake-ups are actually important for cementing the dream memory.
Seems like it. And it's not just brain stuff during sleep. Medications can mess with recall too, can't they?
Oh yeah, definitely. Some meds can really impact how well you remember dreams. SSRIs, for example, common antidepressants, they sometimes increase recall, maybe because the serotonin surge boosts activity in emotional brain areas.
Okay.
But others, like benzodiazepines or tricyclic antidepressants, often decrease recall. They might suppress those micro-awakenings or disrupt REM cycles.
And some meds have weird specific effects, right? Like nightmares.
Yeah, beta blockers have been linked to more nightmares for some people. Trazodone is an interesting one. Seems to help sleep, but preserve recall.
So if someone notices their dream recall changed after starting meds, that could definitely be why. What about just stress, our emotional state?
That's a really interesting one. You know, the pandemic actually gave researchers a kind of natural experiment on this.
How so?
Well, a big analysis in 2024 found that acute stress, like a sudden big event, could actually increase dream recall for some people. Maybe the amygdala, the fear center, is just hyperactivated. But chronic stress, the long-term grind, seems to do the opposite. It reduces recall, probably because those stress hormones damage the hippocampus over time.
Right, the memory center again.
Yeah. And interestingly, people with PTSD often report more nightmares, but actually fewer neutral dream memories. It's like the emotional intensity is there, but the regular recall is impaired. Brain imaging suggests stress can mess up the balance of brain waves in that TPJ area we mentioned, making it harder to sort of tag dreams for later retrieval.
Wow. So our emotional state really shapes what we remember from our dreams.
Mhm.
Are there psychological factors too, like personality types?
Absolutely. Some traits seem linked to higher recall, people who tend to mind wander more during the day.
Daydreamers.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, people who just generally value their dreams, think they're important, and folks with a more internal locus of control, they feel more in charge of their lives, tend to recall more.
And does it change with age?
It does seem to. Recall tends to peak maybe mid-20s to mid-30s, then gradually declines. Older adults often report what are called white dreams, feeling like you dreamt, but having no content. That might be linked to getting less deep N3 sleep as we age.
So it's normal if you remember less as you get older. Now, for people who want to remember more, are there actual techniques, things that work?
Yes, definitely. Research backs up several strategies. One is called the Targeted Awakening Protocol.
Sounds intense.
It just means setting alarms to wake you maybe every 90 minutes after falling asleep, trying to catch those REM periods. And also, try not to move when you first wake up. Stay in that position. It can help hold on to the dream fragments.
Okay, what else?
Cognitive priming helps. That means doing things like reviewing your dream journal before bed or practicing reality checks during the day. We'll talk more about those later just to boost your general self-awareness.
Right, being more aware overall.
Yeah. Some people find neuroplasticity training helpful mindfulness meditation, maybe listening to binaural beats in the theta range. And sometimes talking to a doctor about medication adjustments could be an option. Even just optimizing your bedroom cool, dark, maybe red light in the evening can support better recall.
It sounds like a mix of good sleep habits, actively paying attention to dreams, and maybe some lifestyle tweaks can really make a difference.
Absolutely. It's like your brain's constantly editing overnight, right? And the dreams you remember are often the scenes your mind flags as most relevant somehow.
Which brings us to the really fun part. What if you want to do more than just remember? What if you want to influence your dreams? Hack the dream state.
Ah, yes. Now we're talking. Programming your subconscious through dreams. This whole field looks at techniques for, well, two main things. Dream incubation.
Steering the dream topic.
Exactly. And lucid dreaming, becoming aware that you're dreaming while you're actually in the dream.
Okay, let's start with the more traditional cognitive stuff people can try. What's MILD? We hear that acronym a lot.
Right, MILD. Mnemonic Induction of Lucid Dreams. Developed by Stephen LaBerge, a pioneer in this field. It's basically a technique that uses memory training and intention setting.
How does it work?
The basic idea is you wake up after maybe 4 to 6 hours of sleep. You recall a recent dream vividly. Then you repeat a mantra to yourself, something like, next time I'm dreaming, I will remember I'm dreaming.
Okay, setting the intention.
Exactly. And then, crucially, you visualize yourself back in that dream you just recalled, but this time you picture yourself realizing you're dreaming, becoming lucid.
Does it work?
Studies show it can be pretty effective. Yeah, even for beginners. And generally without disrupting sleep. Some research even suggests it might boost problem-solving skills in the REM sleep that follows.
Interesting. Okay, what about reality testing? How does checking if you're awake help you realize you're asleep?
It's all about building that habit of questioning your state of awareness. So during the day, maybe 10, 15 times, you do a little check.
Like what?
Common ones are trying to push your finger through your other palm. Obviously won't work when you're awake. Or reading some text, looking away, then reading it again in dreams. Text often changes or warps. Or checking a digital clock. Dream clocks often show bizarre times.
Okay.
But the key is how you do it, not just going through the motions. You have to genuinely ask yourself, am I dreaming right now? With real curiosity.
So you train your brain to ask that question automatically.
That's the goal. The habit carries over, and hopefully you'll do a reality check inside a dream. The result will be weird, and boom, lucidity. Studies show combining it with intention setting makes it more likely to work.
Makes sense. And I guess keeping a dream journal fits in here too.
Oh, absolutely fundamental. Writing down your dreams right after waking strengthens those memory pathways, hippocampus, amygdala connections, improves recall over time.
And helps you spot patterns.
Exactly. You start noticing recurring themes, people, places, your personal dream signs. Those can become triggers for lucidity later. Plus, journaling helps with dream incubation too, trying to dream about a specific problem.
Okay, so those are the cognitive basics. But things are getting high-tech now, right? Neuro gadgets and apps.
Oh, yeah. This is where it gets really interesting, maybe a bit sci-fi. We're seeing things like TLR apps, targeted lucidity reactivation.
TLR.
Yeah, smartphone apps. You might do some pre-sleep training, linking a specific sound or light cue to the idea of becoming lucid. Then the app uses your phone's sensors to try and guess when you're in REM sleep.
And plays the cue.
Right, reactivates the cue to try and trigger lucidity while you're dreaming. Early research shows some promise, increasing lucid dream frequency.
Yeah, what else?
Binaural beats, specific audio frequencies, usually theta waves, played through headphones. Some studies suggest they might boost brainwave activity associated with lucidity, especially when combined with techniques like waking up and going back to sleep.
And actual wearables, headbands and stuff.
Yeah, wearable REM detectors are emerging. Headbands with sensors trying to pinpoint REM sleep, then using little vibrations or sounds as cues. Some researchers are even exploring two-way communication, asking questions to dreaming participants and getting answers through eye movements. Still very early days for that, though.
Mind-bending stuff. What about using tech for dream incubation? Trying to dream about something specific?
Yes, that's being explored too. There are protocols like hypnagogic image priming. You focus on a target image, say a tree, if you want to dream about nature right as you're falling asleep.
The state just before sleep.
Exactly. Sometimes they even pair it with smells. The Dormio project at MIT did work on this, showed some pretty high success rates for getting specific themes into those pre-sleep images.
And for problem solving.
There's problem-oriented incubation. You write down the problem clearly before bed, maybe keep related objects nearby, then focus on recalling dreams when you wake up, looking for clues or solutions. Researcher Deidre Barrett has done a lot of work on this, showing it can be effective for certain kinds of problems.
It's like assigning homework to your subconscious.
Pretty much. But, with all these techniques, especially the techie ones, we need to be aware of limitations and best practices, right?
Good point. What are the potential downsides?
Well, with the TLR apps, some people might find the cues disrupt their sleep, especially light sleepers. Overdoing binaural beats. There are some anecdotal reports linking it to increased sleep paralysis, though more research is needed. And a lot of these wearables are still experimental. We don't have much long-term data.
So proceed with caution.
Definitely. It's generally recommended to combine proven methods like mild and reality testing. They often work better together. Use that dream journal to figure out what works best for you, timing-wise. And maybe limit the tech use so your brain doesn't just get used to the cues and start ignoring them.
Right, keep it effective. So it's about blending the tried and true cognitive stuff with mindful exploration of the newer tools. Which leads us to the really big question. If you can influence your dreams, remember them better. What kind of hidden knowledge might you actually unlock?
Exactly. This is where we get into the truly transformative side of our dream lives. Sleep and dreaming, they aren't just downtime. They are actively involved in processing emotions, healing trauma, even boosting creativity.
Okay, let's break that down. Emotional processing first. How do dreams help us handle feelings?
Well, during REM sleep, your brain chemistry shifts quite dramatically. The rational part, the prefrontal cortex, kind of dials down.
Takes a break.
Yeah. While the emotional centers amygdala, hippocampus get more active and interconnected. This lets you re-experience emotional memories, but in a state where the neurochemicals associated with stress are lower, so you can process them without being totally overwhelmed.
Like running emotional simulations with the safety on.
That's a great analogy. Studies show dream recallers often retain emotional memories better, but have less intense reactions to them the next day. It's like REM helps consolidate positive feelings and takes the sharp edge off negative ones.
Which explains why messing with REM sleep can worsen mood disorders.
Exactly, and why things that enhance REM might boost emotional resilience. Your brain is literally using dreams to regulate your emotional landscape overnight.
Fascinating. What about trauma healing, though? That seems complex.
It is. Sleep right after a trauma can actually strengthen the fear memory, unfortunately. Some research suggests staying awake for a few hours after the event might even buffer against PTSD developing.
Really? Stay awake?
Potentially in that immediate window, but later in the context of therapy, sleep, especially REM, seems crucial for healing.
How so?
Well, taking a nap after an exposure therapy session, for instance, seems to help consolidate the new, safer learning. It helps overwrite the FAIR response. This is linked to a process called reconsolidation sleep, helps stabilize the updated memory. Certain brain waves during REM seem key for integrating those therapeutic breakthroughs.
So it's about timing and context. Maybe avoid sleep right away, but use it strategically during therapy.
That seems to be the emerging picture, yeah. Finding that balance, allowing initial processing, then leveraging sleep for the deeper long-term healing.
Okay? And creativity. We all hear stories, Mendeleev's periodic table, the sewing machine. Is that real?
Oh, absolutely. There's solid science behind it. Your sleep cycles help reorganize memories. Slow wave sleep shores up the facts, the declarative stuff. REM sleep is more about making connections, associative thinking.
Linking unrelated ideas.
Exactly. Your brain makes these novel connections during sleep that might not happen when you're awake with all your usual filters up. That's why people often solve tricky problems after sleeping on them or have those aha moments right upon waking.
Like Larry Page dreaming up the Google algorithm.
Another classic example. It's this incubation effect. Your subconscious keeps crunching the data while you're offline, so to speak.
Filters come down and bam, creative insight. So if people want to optimize their sleep for all these benefits, emotional processing, healing, creativity, what should they do?
Well, timing sleep after learning helps consolidate memories. Prioritizing REM sleep is key. So, Good sleep hygiene, avoiding blue light before bed, maybe mindfulness meditation.
And the dream journal again.
Definitely. That helps you tune into the emotional insights and creative sparks. Clinically, researchers are even looking at things like targeted sleep extension alongside PTSD therapy, or using controlled naps to boost idea generation in creative fields.
It really paints a picture of dreams as, well, way more than just nightly entertainment. They could be coded messages, maybe, training simulations for our emotions, encounters with a deeper part of ourselves.
I think that's a great way to put it. You look across history, across cultures. Dreams are consistently seen as significant for growth, for understanding.
From philosophers wondering about reality itself because of dreams.
Right, to spiritual traditions, using them for guidance, for enlightenment.
And now modern science showing their role in how our brains process feelings and solve problems. It's just this incredibly rich landscape inside our own heads.
It really is.
So for you, our listener, maybe the takeaway is pay a little closer attention to that inner world. Maybe start that dream journal. Try setting an intention before sleep. Experiment a bit.
You might be genuinely surprised what you find waiting for you there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking this really fascinating deep dive with us today here at my Mind MashUps.
And yeah, if you enjoyed exploring the world of dreams, please do like, share, subscribe, or follow my Mind Mashups. It really helps people find the show.
You can find us on Amazon Music, Audible, Facebook, Pocket Casts, Spotify, and YouTube. Tune in next time for another deep dive.